everyone, this is Mrs. Har. We're going to be talking about therapeutic modalities today and your upcoming assignment regarding these. So the first one I want to talk about is the neurobiological approach. And with this modality or theory or basis for how a psychologist would approach a patient, they are going to view the human behaviors from the patient in the aspect of the biological manifestations. So this clinician might approach them by looking at PET scans, MRIs, any clinical manifestations that they can see. So when you think about the neurobiological approach and you're thinking of some questions, you might want to address physical, maybe medical histories, maybe any physical symptoms going on right now. The clinician would, with the neurobiological approach, would be looking at that. So that is our first one that we look at. The second one we look at is the behavioral approach. And this approach that clinicians will use when looking and working with a patient, this kind of goes back to that behavior is the result of rewards and punishments. Kind of think of Skinner and the behaviorism theories. So the clinician here will want to know about past history, especially as they were growing up, perhaps family dynamics, discipline, punishment. So they might ask questions of their client around those aspects of their life to see if they, what has happened in the past, if those things that they've been exposed to, those rewards, those punishments, how they were treated, how they were disciplined, if they could have an impact on what they're experiencing right now. The humanistic approach. This is the treatment modality that a clinician may use if they strongly believe Carl Rogers may be their psychologist de jour, but they really believe that humans naturally have a tendency to want to do good, but there's things that come up in their lives and in their experiences that may prevent them from being able to go in that direction. So they would be very interested in past experiences when they are interviewing their clients, and especially looking at relationships and events that might have happened. They'd also be very interested in their belief systems and what they value. So that's the humanistic approach. Another approach that clinicians may use or may kind of cling to when they're developing their practical ways of approaching clients is the cognitive approach. And this believes that our thinking is what influences our behavior. So that our behavior, if we can change the way we think, then we perhaps can change our behaviors and outcomes. And there's a big following to this. There's a lot of sports psychologists that kind of go with this cognitive approach. There's some Love and Logic, parenting kind of manuals out there that kind of go with this cognitive approach. So for the clinician here working with their patient, they might want to know, they really want to understand and kind of wrap their head around how their client is processing information and how they're thinking about situations and themselves, so they can really kind of get to the heart of the matter and see if they can change that thought process that perhaps might change the behaviors that are causing some issues. And another one that you might find clinicians kind of cling to or predominantly use is the socio-cultural approach. Now this kind of belief system that a clinician approaches a client with is that it's based on that their client may have situations or instances that are causing them distress based on the influences in their particular group or culture. So that these strong influences, these rules or expectations, they may be affecting what's going on with their clients. So with the socio-cultural approach, you really want to be asking questions and finding out, what groups they're involved in, of course, their cultural background, their any ethnic ties, who they hang out with, their cultural norms, anything along those lines to see if it can give you insight. Now the last one that I didn't talk about per se, because we covered it so much when you watched the slides with Freud, is the psychoanalytical approach. And this is still widely used today. Um, it was Freud's kind of baby, and it takes the stance that our personality is formed by the time we reach 5 to 6 years old. This is still used in a lot of manifestations in the clinical setting. And it also brings into the unconscious mind that comes into play. So that's a psychoanalytical approach, and that most clinicians today do a combination of all of these different approaches, of these therapeutic modalities, and it seems to work best when they do the combination and use it depending on the different client and the different situation. And that way, if they can approach the client with a bunch of different techniques from several different modalities, they will have a more well-rounded, strong approach. So hopefully this helped you understand the different therapeutic modalities that have developed over the years in the field of psychology. Remember, for your assignment, you're going to be going ahead and using or defining each of these modalities in your own words, and then developing 2 questions that if you were a clinician, that you would be working with your patient, if you were using like the cognitive approach or the behavioral approach, what questions would you pose to your client? So you're going to kind of step into that psychologist roles. I will be on our Monday session. I will be working and covering in our work session. I'll be helping out people that are stuck on this or have any questions, so feel free to join me and we'll cover this in more in depth at that time. So thank you so much. This is Mrs. Haar. Let me know if you have any questions.